right, folks, grab a seat and pour your drink neat as Whiskers and Whiskeys presents Tales of the Trophies, the Big 12's greatest rivalries. It's Mike here with EJ. How's it going, pal? How you doing?
I am doing fine. Not a great football weekend.
No, not really. Yeah, I mean, Sparty has firmly planned themselves in the basement of the Big Ten, and then some disappointment after a lot of excitement for the Lions. Seemed like they were gonna have some fun with the whole blue face mask thing that was Gardner doing that.
Yeah.
And then got used against them. Hate to see it, but I think at least I mean the Lions look good. Like overall, I think there's a lot of reason for optimism there. But yeah.
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, when you go 1-1 against two playoff teams, one being the defending champ, like you can't be too mad. But at the same time, like very much should have been 2-0. But came down to Seattle needed it, Lions wanted it, and there you go.
Yep. Well, it's just been it's been a tough day for me, man. So EJ had us all over yesterday for a little party for his wife's birthday. A lot of beers. I was enjoying the Heavy Seas Greater Pumpkin, which is a 10% bourbon barrel aged pumpkin beer. And then EJ informed me I had a couple of Atomic pumpkins from New Belgium left over in his fridge from last fall, so I had to jump all over those. But just eating not a lot of good food. Like good food, yes, but like donut holes and beer cheese dip and Chick-fil-A chicken nuggets and wings and mac and cheese. And then coming home, and I had a Motor City frozen pizza, and I woke up at 5 a.m. with like the worst indigestion, heartburn. I thought it was like 3 a.m. It was actually kind of worse. I think that was 5 a.m. Like, because 3 a.m. I went and I took some Pepto. I kind of like got past it and everything. But like at 5 a.m., it's like, then, it took me a little bit to go back to sleep. My daughter was starting to wake up, and then it was just, it was a brutal day because it was also like gray, rainy. It's like 65, so it was just like, I don't know. Just I'm ready to. I wish I had the day off tomorrow. I'll say that. I wish I could use a little reprieve tomorrow. Today was just not great. Not great. I need a little mental health day tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, me too.
But we fight on. We prevail. Yeah, we got a great trophy to talk about this week.
We do, but before we get to our trophy, we have some things to catch up on here. So, would you like to catch up on some positive things or some negative things?
I think we spent a couple minutes there really bringing down the listeners. Like we're both not in a great spot. Yesterday was a lot of fun. I mean, we didn't even talk about the fact that Alabama squeaked one out against South Florida yesterday. We don't need to talk about that any more than what I just said right there. But
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Why don't we do that first then before we recap? Because it has been 2 episodes really where we haven't had a chance to give some current events or things that have happened because we had to record the last 2 episodes kind of back to back. So we are now a quarter of the way through college football. We will be doing a more, I know, through the regular season at least, right? 12 games. We're through 3. So we told everyone that we will do like a revisit of our college football preview halfway through, and then obviously once we get past the conference championships, we can bring it up again. But we won't do as an in-depth look at our predictions at the beginning because we'll do that in a couple weeks now. But I guess now that we're a quarter of the way through, what has surprised you positively, negatively? Like, is there one thing that has surprised you that or a team that's been doing really well that surprised you, and then conversely a team that has not performed like you thought they would through the first 3 weeks?
Well, I think that the team that has not performed is pretty clearly Alabama, especially like I keep going back to that Middle Tennessee State game, but like they did what they're supposed to do against Middle Tennessee State. They just beat the crap out of them. And Jalen Milroe looked really good. And then, we saw the Texas game where they just got out physical the entire that's my biggest problem with I think the Alabama team this year is I expected between what we were bringing on defense and the offensive line of just pure man meat up front. I expect us to at least out physical teams. I didn't think that the receivers were gonna. I was hoping they'd take a jump. I don't think that any of them have really taken a jump. Backfields like running backs are fine. Milroe though does not look that good, and then Buckner and Simpson look dreadful as well. But like the team's just not physical. And that's troubling. Like when the guys just aren't like playing bully ball, joyless murder ball. The fact that that's not the brand of football in Tuscaloosa is troubling. So I would say that that's definitely the team that obviously has disappointed me the most. But the surprises, I mean, I think there's the one that everyone's talking about. But then like for me, I think it's like kind of maybe not a surprise, but like confirmation that like Penn State looks really good. Like they are looking. I know we were talking about this yesterday. Like Ours looking really good. I mean, they're great backfield. Like they handled Illinois yesterday, which is like Brett Bielema defense is no joke, and they got the job done. What was the final? 30-7? Was that the final, or was it 14? 30-14?
30-13.
13. Okay. Well, they covered 14 and a half. They took care of business. Like it was Penn State's been looking pretty good, I think. Now, obviously their toughest tests are ahead, but I am definitely like it's good confirmation that like because you never know when you pick Penn State, it's like boy, James Franklin's gonna make me regret this, but they've been looking pretty good so far.
Yeah, I think I mean, they have a very good team, right? They were one of the best, if not the best, defensive team in the Big Ten last year. Lost a couple players, but had a couple replacements ready. Returned a lot. Yeah. And then the offensive line was already a bulldozer, and they returned a lot of that, including a couple 1,000-yard rushing running backs, and one of which was a true freshman last year. So the biggest question was just is the 5-star kid, ready to play? And he has been. He's looked pretty good for playing his first 3 games and playing 2 Power 5 conferences in our Power 5 opponents in those 2 games too. So
yeah.
I guess for me, so I'd say outside of Colorado, for the surprising team positively that's played well is Notre Dame has kind of been intriguing. So you kind of obviously Hartman goes there. That's a positive, but they still don't really have great receivers. Their number one receiver was their tight end last year who got drafted. Have a great running back. And then Marcus Freeman's a defensive coach. So you felt like they would be okay on that side of the ball. But just the physicality of them overall has been impressive. And now you have Ohio State going to
what you game days could be
South
next
Bend.
week. Yeah.
I mean, I was looking at that line, that 3. That's something where I brought it up to you in our preview on how I think Ohio State's still going to struggle with physical teams, including Michigan, Penn State, and then I kind of circled in South Bend is one, that they could easily walk away with 3 losses in the year. And I think Notre Dame has made me even feel better about that now that I've seen them play 3 games. So, the Buckeyes got themselves straight this last week against Western Kentucky, but, that is what it is. So, we're going to know all we need to know about Ohio State this next weekend. And I think they could be, I don't even know I guess it'd be upset alert because Notre Dame's ranked pretty high too, but I mean, they're both top 10. Rankings
Ohio State 6, Notre Dame 9. Yeah, 7:30 in South Bend on Saturday, -3. Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting one. It's gonna be interesting to see how that line moves throughout the week too.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, we got a great slate for this week. Well, I
Yeah.
thought you were going to talk about. I figured you'd talk about Texas, though. If we talk about surprises,
I'm not surprised.
You were not surprised at all. But for like, it's the same as Penn State, right? It's the same type of thing. Like you bet on them to be back, and then whether or not they actually do it is another thing. But they did. And then, well, before like you mentioned before Colorado, like obviously everyone's talking about Colorado, but like that scene for the Colorado State game, like Little Wayne brought them out of the tunnel. Kawhi Leonard's there, like The Rock is there, like the whole thing has just been incredible.
And they almost lost. I mean, they were very fortunate to come away with that win. And I'm gonna be honest with you, them going to Eugene is another one that's kind of perking up for me because Oregon's looked great. And I mean, we knew in the Pac-12, it wasn't that we didn't like any of those teams. They were just very evenly matched, like 4 to 5 to 6 of them. And we're going to start to get a little bit, of separation. Oregon State has to go to the Palouse this next week. It's going to be great. There's actually a lot of Pac-12 games on primetime, like on national TV. So,
well, everyone, everyone was waking up this morning with the same like thing that, we enjoy, well, at least I enjoy. And now you're in it, like the late night game. Everyone on the East Coast is like, oh God, how you do it? It's like, brother, just catch a snooze. Just catch a snooze. It's going to be fine. Like, don't fight it.
Yeah. So I'd say like I guess this isn't going to be a big surprise, but it was an unknown for me. And now I'm starting to understand, and I mean, not concerned as far as our predictions go, but I mean, Georgia, I will say, I was scoreboard watching those first 2 games playing FCS schools, and it really took those offenses a while, way longer than they should have, into the first half to start to kind of click. I will even say just kind of click. I mean, I think they played FCS school and then a bad MAC school. And then, they play South Carolina. And I mean, if that game's in Columbia, they lose. Like they're very fortunate that it was at home. But I think it's catching up to them that, you can't just expect to replace 25 pros in 2 years, most of which on defense were like captains. And even offense last year. I mean, you're losing captains. That's tough to replace. And I'm gonna be honest with you, Carson Beck has not looked great. And that was a big question mark. But a lot of these programs had to replace quarterbacks, and some have looked good, like we knew, and some of them were not going to look good. And this is one that hasn't. And I'm starting to think like, when they have to go on the road, I don't know that they're coming away. Like if they have to,
well, even Athens, right? Like that's not safe by any means anymore, So
no, I think they're fortunate that they're still in the East, and there really hasn't been a clear cut team to really push them this year. But I feel even greater about like, them losing in that SEC championship game, and then losing
cocktail parties could be real. Well, who's going to beat them? I like that. This is a down year for the SEC for sure. Like, I mean, I think we saw yesterday that LSU looks like they're coming to form a little bit. Bama has major questions, but like Gators, obviously handled. So I think the cocktail parties could be real interesting this year. But like, it's a down year for the SEC, and it is a up year for everyone else. Like I think Big 10 looks strong. Big 12 looks really strong. May not really strong, but the Pac, man, they're coming out of nowhere and just looking great.
Yeah, it's just a shame that they're gonna again have to beat each other up to get to the end, and that's gonna end up forcing most of them to not make a playoff. But I'm just intrigued here now. Like now, knowing what we know about Georgia. I'm trying to think of where a loss can be, because it's like, okay, the road games at Auburn. I mean, it's Auburn, right? They're lucky they have Kentucky at home.
Stinks, though.
at Vanderbilt. Okay, it doesn't count. The cocktail party's neutral site. Very lucky they don't have to go back to Missouri, who almost beat them last year. Home against Ole Miss, at Tennessee, but Tennessee's down, and then at Georgia Tech. So I mean, I just think I don't know that they drop any of these. I mean, maybe Kentucky if they can figure out what they're doing on offense. Maybe Georgia.
They're gonna do the thing Ohio State has done every year for the past couple of years. They're gonna look like crap, and then I think that they're gonna get it together. They're gonna figure it out. Like maybe not on offense they figure it out because like Beck, I just don't think he's a guy. But I think their defense is good enough that they'll repeat as SEC champs, but it's gonna be a hard road. I mean, really, at this point with the playoff, it's like there are a lot of teams that could.
I will say some of this is still going to get resolved though, and we kind of talked about it, right? Like I still don't necessarily, and I don't know if you've looked at the early lines with Florida State at Clemson. Can you guess what what that early line is? I saw it on ESPN, which is going to be at least, within a point. Yeah, which is going to be at least within a point-ish of what normal books are. I don't think the regular books had it out yet.
I would say probably Seminoles 3. Seminoles by field goal.
Yeah, so that kind of surprised me because if you were to talk to someone about Clemson, you talk about Florida State, you're talking about national championships, and then you talk about Clemson and you're like, Dabble's going to get fired. So for that to only be a field goal, I thought for sure it would be closer to 7. Oh, well, me thinking like football wise, but Vegas is sharp, but I could very well see them losing that game like we talked about and getting revenge later in the year. Like we talked about, the Pac-12 has to play each other. The Big Ten's best still have to play each other. Like, yeah, it'll be an interesting. There doesn't seem to be no. It is Florida State -1.5 is what ESPN has. So it's even less. Yeah, I mean they're telling you all you need to know that they don't trust Florida State. I don't know. It's interesting. I'm really curious. I don't think there has been. I mean, Texas barely beat Wyoming. That was kind of a sneaky, like no one realized it was going on, but it was, a 3-point game till like the 4th. So no one's looked like that team, which is interesting. Michigan has not looked great with the 3 games that they've played at all. So I don't know. Or maybe there is that shocker. Maybe it is like a Penn State that just, someone arrives. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think, we're gonna find out a lot this week. This is a really good slate that we have coming up. Who will we have this? I just had it pulled up. It's like I'm salivating. So, Ole Miss goes to Bama.
Florida State Clemson.
Oklahoma Cincinnati is an interesting game. Colorado goes to Oregon. UCLA goes to Utah, which, I mean, you just one doesn't walk into Rice Eccles and walk out alive.
And I wonder if Cam going to be back? He might be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, his backup's been playing pretty well. Let's see. Arkansas goes to LSU, but Arkansas just lost to BYU.
The Golden Boot.
Here you go. This is your favorite matchup of all time. Beavers and Cougs. I'm sure you'll be tuning into that. The eyes of all the nation's eyes will be on Ohio State, Notre Dame. Someone's at Fox is going to be like, who's the one guy in Washington D.C. watching Oregon State, Washington State?
This guy.
Yep. And then Iowa, Penn State's also at 7:30. Yeah.
So
North
that'll
Carolina,
be
Pitt.
Yeah, that'll be good. Like while I expect Iowa's offense to struggle, shocker, that's going to be a good gauge for Aller. It is at night, it is at home, it's going to be the whiteout. But that's a defense. Like that's a legit defense. And so I think Iowa could keep that close if they don't turn the ball over on offense. I think it could be just a disgustingly gross game. If Penn State goes out there and puts on a whooping, then I think it's time to maybe start thinking more seriously about their ability to beat Michigan.
And any East Coasters out there who enjoyed staying up late to watch a pack game, or well, I mean, I would highly recommend that tuning in to see Cal and Washington at 10:30 on Saturday, because Washington looked really good. These talk about teams that, I mean, not surprising, but I guess they're living up to the expectations because we were both pretty high on Washington. Yeah,
Yeah.
Michael Penix and the Huskies are looking real strong right now. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so quickly before we get to the trophy, we have to talk about the last two trophies. So the last two games have been played. So the very first trophy we did this year, the Keg of Nails, was not being played this year, but the Bayou Bucket and the Victory Bell did play the last 2 weeks. And boy, were those both electric games. So the Bayou Bucket, we'll start there. We'll just say Rice finally did it. They finally did it. Houston has really dominated that series. We talked about it, and Rice was actually up big, and Houston came back to force overtime. But Rice pulls it out 43-41 in double overtime, and it was just at the very end Rice was able to hold Houston, stop them on the 2-point conversion. But I remember I didn't get to watch this game, but I was definitely tracking it, like score tracking it, and was like, ooh, seeing Rice. I know Houston's down a little bit, but still Rice going out there beating a Big 12 opponent, a Big 12 rival. It was something.
Yeah, I did not watch the game, but that was I saw the box score. I was like, oh, what happened here? So I went back and caught some highlights. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's good for Rice, man.
JT Daniels,
Rice.
good for JT Daniels.
Yeah.
He's just, transferred 4 years to 4 different schools, 5 years to 5 different schools, whatever it is. And, he came away with some hardware. It was a bucket, but, he still came away with some.
Hell yeah.
And then the Victory Bell this last weekend, the streak has been broken. 16-game losing streak has been broken. Miami of Ohio, the Red Hawks, beat Cincinnati 31-24 in overtime, another overtime game. You love to see, the underdog there pulling it out and getting their hands on that hardware for the first time in almost 2 decades.
Yeah, that was both of these situations are, where like the underdog came back, the person who's typically not the favorite, well, at least not recently favor in this rivalry, comes back and gets the dub. So that's good stuff, man. Like these, hopefully these rivalry games that we talk about this season continue to live up to the hype. Because I mean, it's been great games, and hopefully you guys have been able to tune in and watch some of them, because I mean, these two went to OT. Who knows what can happen with our next rivalry here. This could be like a 5-0 tier. Who knows?
And honestly, this game is probably going to be pretty evenly matched and will be played this week. So let's just get right to it. We are talking about the Iron Skillet today. What a great name for a trophy. This game is played between Texas Christian University, TCU, the Horned Frogs, and the Southern Methodist University, SMU Mustangs. A little bit of Texas flavor here. So for trivia, in the spirit of talking about the Iron Skillet, I thought we should do some like cooking / food related trivia. It's just kind of what hit my head. Hit me as the perfect theme for trivia this week. So
I love it. I mean, I'm excited. I mean, an Iron Skillet is a perfect name for a trophy based out of Texas too. I just want to call that out, because like that's, like there's no other state I would think of. If you ask me what state do these teams that play for the Iron Skillet, where they're from, Texas, baby. That's just
right. It's just cooking beans over an open fire with that skillet, that's been around for like 100 years. That's what makes what I think of when I think of that.
Same.
All right. So why don't we get to our first question here? How many Michelin star restaurants are in Texas? Is it A, 0, B, 1, C, 2, or D, 3?
I'm going to say 3. I'm going with the most here. I would actually think it was more. Like you could have put 9 and I would have guessed 9 because like there's such good food in Texas. I'm assuming that, there's many, I'm assuming there's as many Michelin star restaurants as possible. So I'm going to say 3.
That is incorrect. After looking, Michelin stars are actually very selective.
Yeah.
So there's 0 in Texas.
What?
And that is more of a product of them not rating Texas restaurants than Texas restaurants not living up to the hype. So
that is so surprised. I would have like when I saw the options of 0, 1, 2, and 3, I was like, that's ridiculous. Like that's ridiculously low.
I had to double check. I don't know. I didn't go too deep into like why how you can be Michelin starred, like is that something you can request if it's et cetera, but in the United States, because that does extend overseas as well, Michelin stars are in other countries, but there is a Michelin star restaurant in New York, Chicago, California, and 3 cities in Florida, and then Washington DC. So it's actually pretty selective.
Wow. Okay.
I was surprised.
Yeah. I would think that's low for the country too, I guess. But I guess focus in major metro 3 in Florida. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All
yeah,
right.
I'm not sure. It says 3 cities, so I mean, I know Miami's 1 or 2 of them.
Yeah.
I don't know what the other cities. I mean, I'm sure it's probably Tampa and either Orlando or Jacksonville, but not sure.
Probably Orlando, not Jacksonville. I don't think Michelin star when I think of Jacksonville. So,
all right, number 2. Which one of these fast food chains were not started in Texas? So 3 of these were, one of them was not. Is it A, Fuddruckers, B, Jason's Deli, C, Schlotzsky's, or D, Burger King?
So I've never heard of Schlotzsky's.
There's quite a few in Michigan.
Oh, well, I've never come across one. Where are they known for?
It's also like a deli.
Okay. So I watched the Food That Made America episode where it was McDonald's and Burger King. And I was also at the same, like the episode that was on before, after that was Buffalo Wild Wings and Hooters. And I don't seem to remember any mention of Texas in the McDonald's Burger King one. I want to say Burger King started in Florida, but I could be conflating that with Hooters from the other episode. But I'm going Burger King just because I don't remember that like being mentioned as part of the episode. So I'm going to say D, Burger King.
And you're correct.
There we go.
Burger King was started in Jacksonville, Florida.
There we go.
And is now headquartered in Miami, Florida. So
there we go. Okay.
Right all around.
Nice. There we go.
All right. Number 3. Which one of these gigantic food items is not from Texas? Oh, and I forgot. Shoot, I ran out of time. I was going to actually put all these pictures in. I know. I forgot.
Well, I'm hungry, but I'm also like not hungry. Like I feel like I could eat right now.
Yeah.
Like all of this looks delicious, but like I also still feel sick from yesterday. So
okay.
Probably a good thing. You're saving me from myself.
The pictures looked super delicious when I was looking at them. All right. So which one of these gigantic food items is not from Texas? Is it A, a 5-pound cinnamon roll? B, a 12 by 12 inch box-sized donut? C, a 42-inch pizza? And D, a 24-inch cheesesteak?
So they have Texas cinnamon rolls. Like those are like one of the things you can get like at a gas station. So I think that the cinnamon roll is pretty safe. The donut, again, I feel like Texas big donuts, like that's something that I've heard of. So I'm going to say that is a Texas staple. It's the pizza and the cheesesteak that I'm between. I'm going to say it's probably more likely there's a massive pizza somewhere in Texas as opposed to a massive cheesesteak. So I'm going to say it's the cheesesteak is not from Texas.
Oh, well, Mike. This was a trick question because all of these things are from Texas.
Well, I mean, that's there's no.
Listen, I have been doing this for 3 years with you. I had to trip you up at least once.
You got to okay. All right. Well, that's not going against the record. You just had to. Okay. No. All right.
So the 5-pound cinnamon roll is out of San Antonio, out of Lulu's Bakery and Cafe. The box-sized donut is out of Round Rock, which is the suburb of Dallas, I believe. Sorry for you Texans, it's Dallas or Houston, I can't remember. The 42-inch pizza is at Big Lou's Pizza in San Antonio. And then what was my last one? It was the cheesesteak, and that is at the Liberty Bell at Fred's downtown in Carrollton.
Nice. Okay. All right. I kind of want to visit these places. That'd be a hell of a little food tour. Just checking off.
Only gigantic food.
Only gigantic food. Yeah.
All right. Number 4. I promise you that was the only trick question I had.
That's okay. Okay.
Texas is home to the world's largest what? You knew I had to go something additionally big. Is it A, the world's largest steak? B, the world's largest deli sandwich? C, the world's largest pancake? Or D, the world's largest burger?
Well, steak feels like it should be the case, but like also I know I watched like a Man versus Food or something where there's like a massive steak in like Montana. I feel like, steak, it's like it's like you can't like cobble together different pieces of steak. Burger, I feel like there's probably bigger burgers other places. Same with, and like burgers, like that's so subjective. Is it like tallest, tallest, most weight? Deli sandwich, I don't know. I'm gonna say pancake. I'm thinking like a big old massive pancake that you need like a shovel to flip. So I'm gonna say pancake.
You were correct by eliminating steak and burger. You were incorrect with your choice. It is the world's
deli sandwich,
largest deli sandwich. It is 8 layers deep and it includes 5 meats.
Wow. What meats do we know? Okay, I would say probably salami for sure is on there. Let's see, salami, some type of ham, maybe like a capicola. I don't know. I'm thinking like pretty New York too.
It is here we go. It's 12,000 calories.
Yes.
It is the Zelig Betskis from Kenny and Ziggy's in Houston. If you finish it all, you get a free cheesesteak or cheesecake, excuse me.
Okay, yeah, just what you want after 12,000 calorie deli sandwich. Give me a cheesesteak to wash it down.
Yeah.
But cheesecake's even worse, but yeah.
I'm trying to get to I don't know if you get to choose. I'm on their website right now looking at the menu, which actually sounds good. Okay, here we go. It is an 8-decker on a special cut rye. It is corned beef.
Yeah.
Pastrami.
Oh yeah.
Turkey.
Okay.
Roast beef.
Nice.
Salami.
Wow, that's a lot of corned beef, roast beef. Huh. That sounds pretty good though. Pastrami. Yep. Oh yeah, that sounds good. I'd eat that.
You have Swiss cheese with coleslaw, Russian dressing, and red sweet pepper.
Oh, that sounds really good.
Mm-hmm.
Send me that link. I want to take a look at that. And I'm gonna need some time alone. Camera's off.
The camera's off. All right, last question here. And it's okay for us because I'm from Michigan, you're from Pittsburgh. I don't know if this has ever come up before, but we are a pro pop, not soda podcast here.
Pro pop podcast.
So which of these famous pops originated in Texas? Is it A, Coca-Cola, B, Pepsi, C, Dr. Pepper, or D, 7 Up?
It'd be Dr. Pepper.
You are correct. You knew that right
Yeah.
away. Do you know
Yep. Yep.
where in Texas?
I don't know where, but they actually mentioned that I think on a college game day. Of course they did, because of course they did. Yeah, right. So, but no, it's yeah, the guys from Dr. Pepper. So, or the guys from Texas. Dr.
Yeah,
Pepper, yeah.
yes, it is. It was a doctor as well that created Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Pepper, and it originated out of Waco, Texas.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it was the Baylor episode when must have been when Baylor was good and they went there. Yeah. Yeah, I mean most sodas were created by doctors, pharmacists, like it was very common for, sodas back when they made them with the syrup and everything like that, made them by hand. They were made in, like the old timey drugstores, there's a soda found in there too, So, yeah, that's a very common thing.
So yeah, you did pretty well there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean I got two. What I got Burger King, I got Dr. Pepper. I was close on the world's largest Michelin star. Had no idea. And then I got to change my view on Michigan star. And then you screwed me. You trapped me on one.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's pretty good.
That was entrapment.
That's pretty good.
All right, so let's get back to the trophy here. I guess I didn't ask you this, but I assume you know what the iron skillet looks like, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to hold off for a second. Let me talk a little bit about the history before you tell our listeners what this thing looks like. So the first matchup between these two schools was in 1915. TCU won 43-0, and TCU won 4 of the first 5 meetings. And then after a tie, SMU had won 4 of the next 5 meetings. So overall, the series, TCU leads it 52 wins to 42 losses and 7 ties. So pretty close. These teams have played all but 7 years since their first meeting in 1915. They did not face each other in 1919, 1920, 1925, 1987, 1988, 2000, and 2020. So although they are no longer in the same conference, SMU and TCU have agreed to play each other at least through the 2025 season on an alternating home and away basis.
Do you know why they didn't play in 87, 88, or are you going to talk about that?
I'm
assuming I know why they didn't play in 87 and 88.
I am not going to talk about that, actually. I'm not sure. I assumed it was probably a conference change for one of them.
I don't think so.
Oh. What do you think it is?
I think I have to check, but I think that's when SMU got the death penalty.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Pony Express.
The Pony Excess.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Excess.
Well, I mean, Express was the official name, right?
Yeah.
And then the Excess was the title of the documentary, the 30 for 30. But the death penalty was yes. I can talk about that here off the top if we'd like to. So for those who don't know, I would definitely recommend checking out the Pony Excess 30 for 30. It's very interesting, but college football fans may not realize that SMU actually has quite a history of college football. They had a lot of success in the past, but I'm reading directly from Wikipedia here. In 1987, SMU became the first and only football program in collegiate athletic history to receive the death penalty for repeat violation of NCAA rules. So they had the program was fully terminated. Let's see. It was due to it was terminated for the 1987 season because the university was making approximately $61K in booster payments from 85 to 86. They had a slush fund that they used to pay players from the 70s. Starting in as early as the mid 70s, and athletic officials knew about it as early as 81. They ceased football operations in 87 and then 88. So that's nothing. They did not play football in 1987. They All their coaching staff was fired. They couldn't recruit. So basically, like it killed the program. And when the whole Joe Paterno thing happened at Penn State, well, Jerry Sandusky, Joe Paterno, when that happened at Penn State, that many people wondered, like, what would Penn State be the second program ever to get the death penalty? But I mean, I don't know if we'll ever see another program get that, because we saw what it did to SMU. Like, they just completely, had to start from the ground up again. Like, you just got to start over from scratch. And it's affected them, really to this day. I mean, they're still not back to what they were in the 70s and the early 80s. So yeah.
No, and now you have like, whoever was a part of that, pay to play system is probably sitting here like, thank you. Like, you're finally in a spot where that's not even a thing. You've had all these scandals with all of these coaches over the years, and that was the dagger to kill a program, was paying players to come to your school. They could be way worse. You could be, getting some ladies of the night or various other things.
For reference, how good was SMU right before the death penalty? SMU posted a 49-9-1 record from 1980 to 1984, which is the highest win percentage in Division 1A over that span. So that's how good we're talking about. This is like if you killed an elite program for a year. So
yeah, that's crazy. So they did not. So they've played all of but those 7 years. They're signed currently through 2025, although TCU is going to pause the series after 2025, likely just because of realignment within the conferences and not knowing how many conference games are going to be played in non-conference and what to do there. So it's not clear whether the series will be renewed, but hopefully it will be. So why don't you tell everyone what this bad boy looks like?
Yeah. So, we're gonna have to talk about that one picture, that black and white, because that's one thing I was curious about. So the skillet just looks like a massive iron skillet, like you would see at your grandma's house when she's cooking, Lord knows what. It's a massive, massive iron skillet. And there is a plaque in the center of the skillet. I cannot read out. Oh, wait, here we go. There's a silver plaque in the center. Wow, it's really aged. It's right in the center of the skillet, and it says, "The Skillet, SMU versus TCU, a tradition since 1915." I love that. That's simple. That's understated. That's great. And yeah, it doesn't look like the the skillet's definitely got some rust on it, as an iron skillet. I'm sure they're not aging this thing and taking all the appropriate care with it as you're supposed to with the cast iron skillet. But yeah, it is just a big old cast iron skillet. Probably, what was that, like a 12-inch skillet? Something like that?
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Yeah. Now, EJ, what's this picture of the gentleman, the black and white photo here? Because that skillet that they have does not look like the iron skillet as we know it today, which is something I was curious about. Like, is this the same skillet, right?
So like any good rivalry, the history of this trophy, it's a bit murky. And apparently there are two versions of how the iron skillet came to be. So let's just start at one side and see if it makes sense, and then we can talk about the others. But
okay.
Yes, it is a bit of a confusing story, like a lot of these have been. But so we'll start at the beginning. A fire in 1910 destroyed the TCU campus, and the university was relocated to Fort Worth.
It really destroyed the campus. Okay.
Yes. And ironically, Dallas bid to be the home of TCU to pair with its newly charted Southern Methodist University in 1911. Ultimately, Fort Worth offered more, and then just offered more in terms of money, in terms of space. And there is actually only 35 miles that separates the two schools. So it's really near being an inner city rivalry, but
Mhm.
it's really an inner,
More of a crosstown.
metropolitan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more of a crosstown rivalry. Yeah, yeah.
So that is what it is. So here's where the stories really differ. So TCU and SMU fans say the tradition began back in 1946. So during some pregame festivities, an SMU fan was frying frog legs as a joke before the game. And a TCU fan, seeing this desecration of the frog, went over and told him that eating the frog legs was going well beyond the rivalry and that they should let the game decide who would get the skillet and the frog legs. So
They
SMU won the game, and the skillet and the frog legs went to SMU. And the tradition eventually spilled over into an actual game, and the iron skillet, um, was given to the winner from there on in.
Huh. Okay. That's fun. That seems a little like folk talesy ish, you know.
Yes,
That's I like
and
that.
and that's where that maybe middle picture looks like. That actually looks like a skillet that a kid could have had in the parking lot cooking up some frog
Absolutely.
legs.
Yeah, it's a much smaller skillet. It actually doesn't look cast iron. It looks just like maybe a stainless
Yeah.
steel type of skillet or something. But yeah, that looks like it cook some frog legs for sure. Yeah.
So then an article from the TCU magazine tells the story as the first battle of the iron skillet. Again, they both agree with the time, 1946. And it was apparently weeks prior to the game that the SMU student council proposed the idea of a trophy to the winning team. TCU accepted the idea, and the two schools' governing bodies met in Dallas to set up the rules of the traveling trophy, which became the Iron Skillet. But in this case, it still says the mystery. There is mystery on why an iron skillet. And then even in this magazine, they say the rumors still reference the SMU fans frying frog legs as the story on how it became an iron skillet.
So fried frog legs is at the heart of this no matter what. Whether it was
Yes.
just some random dudes in the parking lot tailgating, or whether it
Yes.
was, the student body setting it up. There was SMU fans were frying up frog legs and caused this whole trophy to come into existence.
Apparently so. They're just
I love it.
there isn't enough like written history on it. It's just kind of one of those things where the schools just were like, I guess we're gonna pass around the skillet from now on. Like, there's just like no one has this definitive, like, they know when it started, but they don't
Yeah.
know really why. And then it just was like, I guess we should just continue to do this, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
So I will talk about one of the famous games. It is considered the game of the century. So in 1935, TCU was undefeated, as was SMU, when they battled in what is called the game of the century with a chance to go to the Rose Bowl. And SMU went on to win and went to the Rose Bowl, where they lost to Stanford. The Frogs were sent to the Sugar Bowl and beat the more highly regarded Carnegie Tech, which is now Carnegie
Mellon. All right.
Yes, I know. And I mean, unfortunately, that's it.
Wow.
History, it was really hard to find history on this iron skillet. It sounds like no one's really dug deep. It is what it is. We're happy. We love it. And there's no reason to dig any deeper.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So why don't we just talk about our rankings here?
Yeah.
So just to remind everyone, we rank the trophy on its looks and history, the rivalry on its competitiveness, the overall what we feel like the vitriol, like the rivalry itself, and then we give it a ranking on either if it's a low tier, medium, or high. So, Mike, why don't you tell us, what do you think for looks?
Gosh, I mean, it's so simple. It's so simple and simplistic, and at the end of the day, like even the plaque itself is very simple, right? It's I mean, it's easy to say, like, when you look at the victory belt from last week, like, are there ways to gussy this up? Sure. But at the end of the day, that's not what we're talking about here. Like, we're making it, this is a very simple, common object that we've turned into a trophy and assigned a lot of value to. And I love that. I love that. So I do think looking at my rankings from the last 2 weeks, it's probably hard for me to, give it a 5. I'm going to give it a 4.5. History. So there's a lack of history. I like the reason, though. I like the fact that, like, these SMU fans were frying up frog legs, and, like, the TCU fans took umbrage with it, and they're like, "Hey, all right, Skillet sounds good." I mean, it clearly meant something to the team. So, like, whether it's the first version or the second version of the history, I mean, both are good and stuck with it. So, I mean, I'm gonna say a 3, put it right in the middle there, because while I'd like to see more, I feel like the fact that they were using a skill at the frog legs, I like that. Like, that seems to be the undisputed portion of this, and I like it. And that together, I think that together, the fact that, like, this was something that they were just using to cook up frog legs, and then it became a symbol of the rivalry. Those things together work for me, especially with the trophy being very understated and simple. That works for me. The rivalry itself, let's see. Close rivalry, 52, 42, and 7. Two historically, definitely strong teams. I'm gonna say I like where these teams are heading in the future too. Like, especially if SMU, so, like, if this game was played and SMU wore those big D jerseys that have, like, the D on the helmet, and TCU just wore whatever they want to wear, like, that's going to be a great fit game and, like, probably a good game. So I'm going to say a 3.5. And competitiveness, but competitiveness probably a 4. It's hotly contested. I think SMU is getting better. I think TCU is going to continue to be on the national stage. So I think this is always going to be one of those games that, like, TCU is going to have to watch out for. So it's definitely a top tier trophy for me. I like it. I like it quite a bit, EJ. How about you?
So I think we're very similar.
Okay.
So I think
Shocker.
So I think for looks, I'm with you. I don't think I can give it a 5, although I do appreciate its uniqueness because it's a skillet and no other schools play for kitchen utensil.
Yeah.
And so I love that. I love the simplicity of the plaque as well. I am usually a fan of having, like, the scores and everything, but for this one, it doesn't bother me that it's not there. Yeah. It's fine. So I'm gonna go 4.5 as well. The history of the trophy, I love how old it is. Over 60 years old now. What, 70 years old? Almost 80. Is that how math works? So I love that part about it. And then, I mean, the frog legs is just hilarious that they can't nail down why, but that was their best guess based on rumors, and that's fine. I hope it's not anything else. I don't even want them to uncover the truth if the truth isn't that.
Yeah.
So the rivalry, I just actually
what was your history ranking?
Oh, you're right. I didn't even give you a history ranking.
Give me a number.
I'm gonna go with. I just wish there was more, but then
that's why I took it to 3, is because I felt like there wasn't. If there was more, just give me. Did an SMU fan hit a TCU fan with a frying pan, or, like, how many times has this trophy been stolen? Something like that.
I'm gonna go 3.5.
Okay.
So the rivalry itself, I think being this is also another one that I feel a little bit ignorant towards, but I did just Google as you were giving yours, and the Dallas Morning News, which should know, both these schools well. It seems to be pretty consensus that they are each other's top rivals. So it might not be, so it might not be one that's maybe talked about a ton, but I think
two Christian schools in Dallas, Fort Worth.
I mean, essentially, right? Like, you have one in Dallas, one in Fort Worth, 35 miles away.
Well, they consider that area like Dallas, Fort Worth.
Dallas, Fort Worth, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's the same metropolitan area. So, so I did just do a quick check because sometimes you'll have, one school, it'll be the number one rival, and the other school, it's not always that, but it's still a top one. It appears on both sides that even for TCU, in this case, the bigger school after the death penalty, also sees SMU as the top rival. Even looked like Baylor was kind of second for TCU in that case. But so it looks like they are top rivals. I gotta believe, being that close and in the same metropolitan area, that it would be the case. So I'm gonna go with a 4 there, but it could very well be higher if we knew more information.
I feel like that factoid makes me want to bump mine up from 3.5 to 4. Like, that means a lot.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, I think I will. Okay. That means a lot. When you're not in the same conference and you consider that your main rival, that's a lot.
Yep. And when you play for that long too, that's the thing. They've played each other, like you said, you're non-conference and still finding ways to play for over 100 years, minus a few years. That's something. And then the competitiveness, it's a 4.5. It's about as close as you can get, which is pretty surprising, again, considering that SMU, after that death penalty, really it was really tough for them to bounce back, and even TCU hasn't been great until recently. So but they're pretty close, right? It's like a 10 game gap or whatever. So so I'll go about a 4.5 there. And overall, it's a top tier. I mean, this is one of, when you tell me college football trophies before we started doing this podcast, obviously I knew the majority of the ones I knew were from the Big Ten, just because I've had exposure to them. But that's one of the few, along with like the jeweled, not bedazzled, I was gonna say the bedazzled shillelagh, the jeweled shillelagh, and as some of the ones outside of the Big Ten that I had heard of, and the iron skillet is the other one that I've heard of. So so I've got to put that in a top tier.
Love it.
So then what I have to ask, neither of us put it as a 5. What would make it a 5? And looks, we'll just say looks. What would make it a 5?
I feel like the one reason I didn't make it a 5 is just because it's like looking at the other trophies and the scores that I gave, I felt like I couldn't do it. But I mean, we both talked about this. I don't know why I would change. I'm thinking what if you paint it? I don't want to paint it. What if you add another plaque with the scores? I don't want to do that. I like the simple, simplistic plaque that they have now.
I have an answer.
Go ahead.
Everything is bigger in Texas.
That's right.
Give me an oversized,
bigger skillet. Just make the skillet
something
bigger.
That's nonsensical making,
Yeah.
Right? And I love that it started as probably practically an actual skillet.
Yeah.
And then I would be okay making it bigger. Or I don't know how you could potentially maybe do that without replacing it. I don't know. Adding metal to it. I'm not a
I think I mean, based on that one picture you showed me, it doesn't look like this is the original skillet.
Yeah.
So I mean, I am totally okay with a massive skillet. I actually love that. Yeah.
Just something ridiculous where it takes 2 people to hold it.
Yeah.
And it just looks nonsensical. I'd be all in.
What if you got Lulu's to build or to make a cinnamon roll, and then you serve up the trophy with cinnamon roll in it, and everyone's just grabbing out,
a bowl game,
Yes. Oh my God.
The stickiest catcher, the sweetest player of the game or something like that. You could even have an
just
MVP.
Digging into it. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. The sweetest player. Yeah. And they get to, Yes. Okay. That's how we can improve it. Yeah. Because I was thinking, like, even if you did like chalk marks on the bottom or something for like, like TCU and like tallies,
Yeah.
like that could be interesting, but like just takes away from it. So,
Yeah. And I
no,
don't think you
I
want to
like
go
that.
down like the path of like, eating frog legs or eating like horse. So
No,
I don't think you want to
no, certainly
take
not
it that
horse. Those are
take it
those
that
are
far.
lean times if you have to to shoot a Mustang and for fried up. So no. Yeah. I mean, well, frog legs are good, but like then that's only like one side of the rivalry, right?
Right.
So yeah, I think that would be cool if they did it huge, like get Lulu's to put one of those 5-pound cinnamon rolls in it and like bake it. Like that's even something you see like in the game, like okay, we're at the start of the third quarter here. Looks like Lulu's are going to be putting the iron skillet into the oven here. Let's hope we all run to overtime because then it's gonna be too cold. You're not gonna want to. Well, I guess cinnamon rolls cold are fine, but still. Yeah. All right. I like that. EJ. That's good. That's thinking right there.
Yeah, yeah, that just subtle. I'm okay with it representing this rivalry. I'm fine with that. But yeah, give me a little bit
Yeah.
more girth, some
Yeah.
size.
Yeah. I
Um,
like it.
okay, so this game will be played this week. It is going to be on FS1 at noon kickoff. So the game is going to be played in Fort Worth, so at TCU's stadium. So what are your predictions? And just give you a heads up, it looks like according to Caesars Sportsbook, the line is -6 for TCU. So just under a
Yeah. I
touchdown.
think it's gonna be a good game. You know, TCU is definitely not as strong as they were last year. SMU's pretty competitive squad that they've been fielding for the past couple of years. Um, you said TCU -6.
Mm-hmm.
So tough because like give me the Mustangs. I think SMU covers. Maybe not
So
win, but I think they'll cover.
I'm with you. Preston Stone is the quarterback for SMU, a name that I've heard a few times. A sophomore. He's been slinging it. He's pretty athletic as well. He's exciting. He's worth watching the game. If you're not super interested, it's tough. It's a really great slate. Great board this week. But this is a game worth your time, and I think it's gonna be very, very close. I agree. I don't know if necessarily they'll go in and win that game, but I think they'll cover, and I expect Preston Stone to have a big game. So
Yeah.
we're gonna go with the Mustangs here.
All right. I like it. Yeah, that should be a game where if it goes the way I'm thinking, it will be exciting down to the last possession. It'll definitely be, team has a chance to win it with the ball in their hands at the end of the game. So
I mean, can we
yeah.
go three? Can we go three for
That's what I'm
three
thinking,
on
man. I'm
overtime?
thinking there might be another overtime here. In which case that makes the 6 super difficult, right? Because if you get to well, I guess now if you get past second overtime, then it's just doing 2-point conversions.
Yep.
So yeah, so then you really want SMU because then they'd cover it no matter what. So yeah, sounds good. So book it. Book the
it.
Mustangs.
And that's going to do it for us this week. So follow us on Instagram at whiskers.whiskies and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out our Saturday morning pick'em posts. I know, Mike, you're not worried, but looking back at the most recent standings, you might need to at least maybe consider being concerned a bit. We're a quarter of the way through.
No, I'm good. I went 6-5 this week, and but I put the most units on games that I won. So I'm feeling pretty good. I'm starting to figure things out. It was a rough, don't get me wrong, first 2 weeks were very bad, very, very bad. But I feel like we're getting now. Directionally, we're getting there. We're making things happen. So
it's not too late if you want to join. We are 3 weeks in. you can with especially with our risk it for the biscuit bet, you can make up some ground if you want to join us if you have not done so already. So also please check out our new website, whiskerswhiskies.com, and that's where our college football preview bracket is located, and also our ultimate sports travel log. So join us next week when we talk about the Indian war drum. For Mike, I'm EJ. Always remember, too much of anything is bad, but too much good whiskey is barely enough.
Cheers, boys.